Hello again, friends, and you are our friends, and better late than never. Welcome to another edition of Jim Cornette's Drive-Thru right here, wherever it is you have pulled up to. I don't even know what day it is. I'm your host, the great Brian Last. Let me present to you right now the star of this drive-thru and the heel at so many other drive-thrus, Mr. Jim Cornette.
Well, thank you very much. I'm still alive, Brian Last, the great Brian Last, and thankful to be back in communication with the cult of Cornette after a trying week. It ain't over yet, folks, but I am perking up. But we mentioned on the experience so long ago, I feel like I just watched the Alcatraz documentary. I feel like I just swam to the Golden Gate Bridge from Alcatraz. But the experience came out as normal last week, and I say, I've come down with the coronavirus. And I didn't realize that the coronavirus then transmogrifies over into the bubonic plague. But that was what is today? My God, it's Tuesday is what it is. So I'm medicated. It's Tuesday, and since last Thursday morning, I have been sneezing and wheezing and coughing and hacking and ears plugged up and face hurt and weak and dizzy and disoriented. I have not been shitting. I've not been shitting. As a matter of fact, I'm shitting several days because I've also not eaten. I've lost 7 pounds in, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. 7 pounds in 6 days. Go on the Cornette diet, ladies and gentlemen. It works. I'm lighter now than I was before I got into business. I'm 193 fucking pounds. I intend to start eating soon this week, hopefully, and bring that back up to a healthy 200. But anyway, and so I just wanted to apologize to everybody for being late. But as you know, I've been calling you every day, said, I don't think I can. Let's try tomorrow. And I don't think I can. And finally, we've got this. Hopefully, we're going to get this done. But it's somewhat better. My ears, I can hear mostly now. My nasal passages got cleaned out by the profuse recurrent nosebleeds. That really helped. Because, I'm prone to those anyway, so naturally I get the cold, I'm blowing my nose all the time and blah, 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 and the membranes dry out. So profuse nose bleeding everywhere. But that cleaned out some of my head. Now a lot of it's in my chest. And we're trying to, and I'm blowing the nose now, and instead of the thin, runny stuff, it's more like the consistency of my Aunt Lola's sausage gravy. So that means it's on the way out. And I'm hacking that stuff up that looks like, fucking Russo's wife's cooking. So I know that that's coming out. And so I'm feeling better, and I've got some more energy. But I do want to let everybody know that if you've ordered anything from Cornette's Collectibles over the past week, the WHO, the World Health Organization, did put a quarantine on me sending packages around the world. In the spirit of closing down fucking China and crashing the stock market, they also, I'm the second biggest economy next to China these days at Cornette's Collectibles. So they sent me the official government. Well, I had to shut everything down for a week because we couldn't be shipping that stuff all over the world because as we know, I hand process everything. Everything's hand signed, hand done. So if you've ordered in the last week, I've got your order. We are starting to process tomorrow. And we'll be shipping every day until we can catch up for the backlog. I appreciate everybody that's tweeted and said, hey, don't die, get better. We'll wait on the shows or skip a week or don't worry about the mailings, but we're going to get everybody's stuff out. But I just want to, so I'm not even going to do a sales pitch for Cornette's Collectibles this week. Folks, if you want to give me a few days, to fucking catch up, I completely understand. But we will honor everything. It's just taking us a little time to turn it around. I didn't want to send any special surprise. I do send out if you spend enough money. Hint, hint. If you spend enough money buying stuff, I send out like free Cornette's Collectibles pins and keychains with flashlights and keychains with anybody that orders the Mid-Atlantic film set automatically gets an actual Cornette's Collectibles Swiss Army knife keychain. It's got the screwdriver. It's got the screwdriver. It's got the fucking knife. It's got the fucking corkscrew thingy. It's got all that stuff on it. It's Cornette's Collectibles, and it's a keychain, so you can break out of anywhere. It doesn't have a handcuff key. They wouldn't do that for me. I wanted to replicate my key ring for the folks. But anyway, the point is, if I don't want to be sending out any bad free items, regardless of how much money you spend. So we're picking up on that starting second half of this week.
You could send out influenza.
Well, this is a very influential influenza that I have been dealing with. Because I remember when I used to one time we were doing in Baltimore, we were doing the Ring of Honor post-production for a television taping. At the taping, I'd been so sick that I had to call all the guys in the ring closer because I was so hoarse. I had no voice. I couldn't speak I was laying out all the finishes for them and on the shows and an angle or block an interview or everything. I had to have everybody come in. Of course, they're thinking like, we don't want to get close to this fucking guy. And then I was there for 4 days and I was so sick every day. I laid on the couch in the edit suite because we were editing from 6 p.m. to 5 a.m. overnights when they weren't using the edit suites there in the early days. And so I was staying away from poor old Mark Davis, the editor, and Dan Bynum, our director. I was over on a couch with a fucking, bucket and box of Kleenex and a blanket or whatever, and just sounded horrible, but I had to do the post-production. And then finally left and drove home 600 miles and was so still, because I hadn't been able to go to a doctor. I don't know any doctors in Baltimore. I wasn't going to go to a fucking urgent care in Baltimore, especially in the neighborhood that the fucking Sinclair television station's in. So I haven't been to a doctor. I'm just taking over-the-counter shit. And on the way home down through the West Virginia mountains, I'm sneezing so hard and my head's about to explode. And I'm coming through the mountains with the elevation change anyway. And here comes the profuse nosebleed. And now I've literally, anybody who's been in between Clarksburg and Charleston, West Virginia knows there's periods of 10 or 20 miles where it's just, there's no exit and there's no rest area. And if you pull off on the side of the road, you're at the mercy of these goddamn people barreling down the mountain. So I'm driving with my left hand. I've got a giant clog of Kleenex under my fucking face, blood down my face. And I'm thinking, where can I stop and go in somewhere and clean myself up? And they won't think that I've just been in a goddamn armed robbery or something. And, the dedication that I had, I don't have that now. I haven't left the goddamn house in 6 days.
Finish your story. Where did you stop?
I ended up, I came up on a rest area and I fucking wheeled in and I parked in one of the handicap spots right next to the door and ran in before everybody saw me covered in blood, and I had a jacket. So I fucking go in, clean the shit off, whip my fucking bloody shirt off, wad it up, put the jacket on, zip it up, and get back in the fucking truck and continue on my way. And then was in bed for 4 days when I got home.
Yeah, that's not suspicious at all.
Not at all. I didn't throw the bloody shirt in the goddamn garbage can at the. But anyway, so the point is, yes, we're going to be starting to fill the Cornette's Collectibles orders very soon. And folks, I just want to let you know, if you have been a customer, if you have recently opened a package of quality, affordable merchandise from Cornette's Collectibles and later contracted coronavirus, whooping belch, projectile urination, or anal seepage, you may be entitled to compensation. For a limited time only, class action suits are being taken by the one, the only...
Call Stephen P. News. If you need to sue. An outlaw mud show or two. He'll serve the rest.
Yes, ladies and gentlemen, if you have recently in the mail received DNA of an unsavory or infectious type from a noted former wrestling personality, or you have had somehow been wronged in any other way by any major corporation because of their negligence, greed, avarice, or just downright assholery, you've got somebody that can stand up for your rights. He's your friend. He's our friend. He's a member of he's the consigliere of the cult of Cornette, regardless of how you spell that word. Ladies and gentlemen, Stephen P. New of newlawoffice.com, 888-692-8084. People thought he was too good to be true. People thought he was a gimmick that we had made up until he started winning all these multi-million-dollar lawsuits and cases for people who have been wronged by major corporations or companies without a heart, soul, or anything else to have compassion for the little guy, that he has been fighting for justice, and he's taken on so many cases, not only for Cult of Cornette members, but also for other attorneys, as we've just mentioned recently, out there in the Cult of Cornette that don't handle those types of cases. They send their work to him. So Stephen P. And by the way, he's undefeated against the Outlaw Mud Show gang. They are 0 for life against Stephen P. New and preparing to go further down the porcelain throne. So, ladies and gentlemen, you can put this barrister of the ages to work for you by calling 888-692-8084 or emailing newlawoffice.com. Get even with Stephen. If you need to sue, call Stephen P. New. What more can I say that has not already been said, and even less, Brian, about our friend Steve?
Did you say projectile urination before we went to the spot?
I've heard that's in the Bolivian jungle. They are finding a virus that is now causing projectile urination, and that can put your eye out.
Okay.
So
you learn something new every day here on the Drive-Thru.
Well, I've been watching a lot of the cable channels and the documentaries and things since I've, been basically I didn't even sleep from Friday morning at 9 o'clock until Saturday evening at 9 o'clock because I couldn't lay down without my head blowing up, and I was so miserable. I just sat on the recliner all night. And wasn't even interested enough to get up and actually watch something I wanted to pay attention to, so I just had the TV going on in the background. I think that was on the National Geographic Channel, that there's projectile urination now in the Bolivian jungle and in some small quarters of San Juan Capistrano.
Every time you're off social media for, I was about to say an extended period of time, even a small period of time, people think you've been thrown off. They wonder what's going on. And then we have to say, no, he's actually sick. Not spending time in front of his computer. He doesn't do it on a smartphone.
Well, and that's, and I wish I did less of it, because a couple times a day, I've been coming up here and just checking Twitter, and we had to retweet the stuff on the YouTube channel. Thank you to all the new subscribers. We retweet those notices, and so I had to handle some business, and I would scan through Twitter and retweet some things or respond to a few people. And over the past, like I said, 5 or 6 days, that's all I've done. And I knew we were going to be able to do the show today. So this morning, before we're going to record, I get on Twitter and see what's going on. And that's why I want to make a public apology at the top of the program. People say that I never apologize and I never admit that I'm wrong. Well, here is a public apology. I'm going to admit that I was wrong. I apologize to all the people that have heard me over the past, I don't know how many years, defending our old friend Uncle Dave Meltzer as somebody who really knows his wrestling and knows what he's talking about. I apologize because he, like a lot of other people that I've known in this business over the last 10 years or so, has embarrassed me for saying that. Because I get on Twitter and the first thing I see this morning is Dave Meltzer has tweeted to somebody. And I don't, once again, I don't know how I'm not going to follow the whole train of conversation. I saw what I needed to see. Meltzer has tweeted, Kenny Omega is a genius at putting a match together. His psychology is so far above other people that if you don't get it, whoever he's replying to, if you don't get it, then maybe it's just that you're out of touch or whatever the fuck. And my head has felt like it was going to blow up for 6 days, but it finally did. I then see at another tweet almost at the same time that he has said that, well, Okada and Omega, that series has blown away what Flair and Steamboat drew, which, for 30 and 40 years after the fact, and adjusting for inflation and the fact that Flair and Steamboat worked every night in the Carolinas for one series, and for another series they were hampered by fucking WCW and all the other things, blah, 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 blah. But he's not only outdrawn, but the matches exceeded. Basically, Omega and Okada drew better and were better in ring with better psychology. This was a quote, with better psychology than Flair and Steamboat. And at that point, I had to just tell Dave, fuck you, Dave. And that's what I'm saying now. Fuck you, Dave. Because we have known each other for 35 years and I have defended you. And I will still say, I've always said, even though Shawn Michaels was a fucking flaming fucking asshole to me constantly and everybody else practically in his life because he was a pillhead and et cetera, et cetera. At the same time, he was the best performer in the ring of the era. So I can give credit where credit is due. Dave Meltzer knows more about wrestling history than almost anybody. There's some historians that probably know more about history, but they're not as good on modern day. Dave has written so much, worked with so much of these historians. He knows his historical facts, gates, figures, trends, whatever. He's seen a ton of wrestling. He's watched more wrestling than anybody alive, especially from the territory days. When he reports these business facts, he is not making shit up or exaggerating shit or whatever. I'm not defending Bruce Pritchard because Bruce was lying, just flat out lying, because Bruce does that. He flat out lies and bullshits people. For whatever reason, I don't know. He was talking to Dave and those things. Dave, if believe Dave Meltzer over Bruce Pritchard about what was going on in the WWF in the 90s. I don't want to start any false rumors. I don't know why Bruce bullshits people that he doesn't have to bullshit. Remember, Brian, he came to me. That's why I don't speak to him anymore. He came to me with bullshit that I wasn't soliciting and fed me the bullshit for, 9 months? And then when I finally said, fuck you, you've been bullshitting me, then he was astounded and astonished why I was upset. But anyway, I'm not saying any of that about Dave Meltzer. What I am saying is that he's lost his ever-loving fucking mind. One of a couple of things is happening. Either he is senile or what, and we've joked weed's legal in California, but weed doesn't make you that stupid. He's senile, which I don't think, because you couldn't produce the volume of work he produces being senile, so we can eliminate that. Or he's like the Republicans, and he thinks that if he comes out and tells the truth that he will lose a significant portion of, in this case, subscribers rather than voters, because he will say that these guys like the Bucks and Olivier and all the rest of these outlaw fucks that are not ready for prime time are bilking this fucking rich money mark who had a fucking play federation when he was a teenager and just happens to have a father with $17 billion. And they rushed this thing into fucking fruition without a goddamn cohesive plan of fucking leader or quality talent. He could go ahead and say that, but then he'll lose a bunch of his subscribers. So he's like the Republicans. He chooses to lie and tell everybody the emperor's fully dressed. Or he has just desperately wanted to be a part of this for so long and felt so bad because he's been knocked and fucking reviled by so many people in the business and never actually was in it, that now that these guys have sucked up to him and he is swinging off their fucking jock and they are patting him on the back and inviting him to Mama Buck's Sunday dinners or whatever the fuck is going on. Maybe Omega's fixing him up with some of the fucking Japanese schoolgirls, although I don't think that's the case. I don't think Dave's that kind of guy. Why he can't just... he told the truth about the Junkyard Dog, who was more over in his place and time and a fucking greater personality in pro wrestling than this goddamn sissy-ass, prissy pants and finger-pointing, Harpo Marx-looking, cartoon fucking wrestling joke ever has been or ever will be. But he used to call him the junk food dog. He used to call... I guess I shouldn't use that expression right after talking about JYD. He used to say something was what it was, even if it was successful or drew money. But now he doesn't. He makes excuses for it. Well, and the demographics say. Dave, I'm talking to you right now. When you tell me that Kenny Omega, that fucking idiot that wrestled a goddamn sex doll in front of people, that fucking has matches with 9-year-old girls, that thinks this goddamn Japanese anime schoolgirl fetish bullshit. You know they have Japanese porn where the girls are fucking octopuses. So that explains to me why Kenny Omega may have been over in Japan for whatever kind of cult audience they have for fucking Harpo Marx lookalikes. Like a goddamn mime with a decent physique. You can't tell me, looking at him, looking at what he does, looking at the joke that they make out of their entire business, that this guy's on a level with Ricky Steamboat and Ric Flair, that this guy, I'll tell you exactly, and I've said this before, and I don't give a fuck if anybody don't like it or not. Kenny Omega, for what he did in the fucking ring in Japan, somebody should have broke one or both of his fucking legs and run him off. I can't believe he's continued to get booked in the business. They didn't book Eddie Mansfield again. And what Omega's done is worse than Eddie Mansfield. Eddie Mansfield at least didn't make the goddamn business look like a Saturday Night Live sketch. He just exposed it. Omega exposes it as a fucking farce and a complete bunch of shit and encourages all the fans to fucking laugh at it. Just like those two little goddamn schoolboys that are frustrated because they can't. Can you imagine? Can you imagine putting the goddamn Young Bucks in the ring with the Steiner Brothers or the Road Warriors or Doom or fucking whatever and say, oh, just go 15 minutes or so, they're over. What the fuck? It's become a goddamn bunch of sissy fucking cosplay assholes having a bunch of goddamn group jack-off sessions in front of the fucking fans. That's what they've turned the business into. And Dave Meltzer, you're defending this. And now you can defend Cody all you want to, because he knows what's going on. He saw the lay of the land. He said, this fucking money mark is going to start a promotion and I can be the top fucking babyface on TNT television. And I can be bigger than my dad was because I got no competition in this field of nitwits. And I know what I'm doing. So I don't blame him. And that's exactly what's happening. And I don't blame Chris Jericho for taking millions of dollars to work part-time and saying, I could be the top heel on my goddamn own fucking television show on TNT. And goddamn more people will hear my music. And I'll be a huge fucking star off of this because everybody around me is a complete fucking moron. So I don't blame him. I don't blame the guys that are on the card that are being booked just because they happen to be high school friends or locker room buddies with the Young Bucks on their goddamn Outlaw Mud Show Across America fucking tour that they've taken over the past few years, is selling their fucking merchandise to all the goddamn people that think that their shit's funny because wrestling's supposed to be funny and silly and for everybody. I don't blame the guys on the card, but they're not ready to be on national television. They have not been trained properly. They've been plucked straight off of indies without a training program like NXT or OVW or any decent fucking school to prepare you to how to do this professionally. I don't blame them because they're taking the fucking idiot's money too. Who I blame for a fucking wasted opportunity on national television at a wrestling promotion where the business could actually be taken seriously and some badass talented athletes could get together with some entertaining personalities like the MJFs of the world and fucking do a goddamn program that wrestling fans could be proud of that could compete with Vince and everybody could make some money. but not when you're picking on the basis of either nepotism or insanity, your talent roster, and you've got a bunch of fucking outlaw-minded goofs that think wrestling is supposed to be a joke as your executive vice presidents booking your women's division and your tag team division. And it's goddamn insane. And at the root of it is Tony Khan was a reader of the Wrestling Observer. And suddenly, because he had the resources, decides he's going to start a wrestling promotion and kick Vince McMahon's ass. And he picks these people to fucking advise him and be his stars, which is why I knew it was doomed from the start. And why I wouldn't return Tony Khan's calls every time I'd see that fucking number pop up on the phone. I'd be like, this is going to take forever, and this guy's going to learn nothing. Because of the Young Bucks and Kenny Omega and their pissy fucking phony comedy wrestling. And now Dave Meltzer, a guy I've known for 35 years and who I have defended and told people Dave has been a wrestling fan and knows what the fuck. He's so scared of being seen as an old man or out of touch that he is defending this shit. And he's trying to come up with reasons why it's good. Look at Kenny Omega and tell me that that's Stone Cold Steve Austin. Here's something for you. They had an intergender tag team match on the last AEW show, Brian. Kenny Omega and Riho against a guy and a girl. I think is it the tampon girl?
No, Kip and Penelope.
Oh, super bad and super slut or whatever the fuck. They're all the same. They come from the fucking group of the dick grabbing guy. This is a whole clown show. It's infested everything. It's the coronavirus of pro wrestling. There's nowhere that these fucking Saturday Night Live fucks don't fucking spread. They don't come from because of these guys and their little California. Here's the thing, if you're a wrestler in California and you don't grab the fucking, brown and serve roll covered in pubic hairs fucking junk and fling yourself across the ring, you can't get booked. So to me, that's a form of sexual harassment. Somebody ought to talk to you. Go to a labor board out in California and say, hey, I'm a professional wrestler, but I can only go so far in this state unless I grab this guy's dick and then fling my own self across the ring. Maybe that's a complaint. But anyway, they get them from there and they wrestle in bars and they shove tampons in each other's mouths and they book the Invisible Man. And then there's another, on the other coast, there's a Mark promotion that wants to change the game or something that fucking pays for everybody to go to Japan so they can say they wrestled in Japan like that's an honor anymore when the people are running their own vanity shows over there to go puncture themselves and slice themselves up in garbage death matches and catch who knows what kind of fucking diseases from each other and then come back here and say, I just had a death match in Japan, you fucking morons. They get this talent from all these places and the whole fucking, and let's not forget, I'm sorry, but Sonny Kiss, I was labeled homophobic because I said the first time I saw him, who is this fucking guy dressed up like a drag queen in a Tropicana, bumping his ass into people's faces, and suddenly I'm homophobic. Well, fuck you too, because it's all clown show fucking wrestling. And that is what the Young Bucks and Kenny Omega have brought to the United States, to national television, on the dime of a fucking money mark whose father is so rich he can do whatever the fuck he wants, and he suddenly decided he was going to kick Vince McMahon's ass. And the wrestling business, just like the United States, is going to have to suffer for the next 20 years from the Trump administration, a bunch of people who didn't know how this shit was supposed to work and had never done it before at a high level. The wrestling business for the next generation in America, people are going to see that. Well, that's what wrestling's supposed to be, a fucking clown show with a bunch of guys assing off and making fun of their own business on television. Because of Tony Khan being conned, fiduciary irresponsibility on the part of his advisors. And Dave Meltzer cannot just come out and say, what the fuck are they doing? They're trying to do something on national television, and they're doing a glorified indie show with nobody in charge, obviously, because it looks like it was goddamn, this show was booked by a fucking schizophrenic. So, Dave, I'm sorry. that I had to say fuck you on Twitter this morning. But fuck you, Omega and Genius in the same sentence. I will go down. I will die on that hill every day. Fuck you on that. Ric Flair and Ricky Steamboat equals Olivier, and Okada's a fine athlete. And everybody's now seeing that he was the one leading those matches, I think. But seriously, get out of their ass. You're old. You can retire. You've got enough money. You're just like me. You don't have to suck up to anybody anymore. But you're still doing it. What for? You know better than this, unless you've lost your fucking rabbit-ass mind. And you know what somebody else tweeted, Brian, this morning? Well, wrestling's always been silly and fake. Look, guys used to wrestle bears. It was a real fucking bear, you stupid idiots. I've seen that shit. I didn't want to wrestle that bear. Nobody wanted to wrestle that bear. Tracy Smothers wrestled 3 of them. One of them almost killed him. There wasn't anything fake or funny about that. The people laughed, but the guy wrestling the fucking bear wasn't laughing. That's the same thing as Kenny Omega on national television making funny faces and struggling to bench press 17 pounds for whatever reason that was never explained when he was trying to talk about a serious match. And the intergender matches. Can you see Stone Cold Steve Austin taking bumps for Ivory? What about if Ric Flair teamed up with Misty Blue Sims? The fucking supposed best bout machine, which, say that at the mall in fucking Des Moines, and somebody's going, what the fuck? That's a Japanese goddamn phrase. Say that at the mall in Des Moines and people, best bout machine. What the fuck are you on about, right? The supposed greatest wrestler in the world is teaming up with a 98-pound schoolgirl to wrestle mid-level talent and another girl and being competitive with the girls. And you remember that big angle that happened between the Fabulous Moolah and Harley Race, right? You fucking moron. The thought of Olivier in the wrestling business detests me. As I said, they never booked Mansfield, and what he's done's worse. I think he should have had his legs broken and he should have been run off. That's just me and everybody else. The thing that I get upset about, I think the most, besides, like I said, I don't blame the guys on the card. I blame the people making this actually happen. The veterans that take the dick flip, or the veterans that go along with the fucking Invisible Man, or whatever the case it is that they do. Well, then, because then the fans of this shit will say, well, so-and-so did it. There are different varieties of veterans in the wrestling business. Some took the business very seriously. As I said, you wouldn't see Scott Steiner would not be working on a competitive basis with Matt and Nick Jackson in the 80s, because he would have known, and the 90s, he would have known it would have buried him. The fans would have thought he was fake and silly. It would have cost him money at that time, because people had sense then. But now, I'm not saying Scott Steiner would do these things, but I'm just saying as an example. None of the veterans of those days at that time, because they would have known they would have been sacrificing their money and their image and their fucking over or their heat or whatever. They wouldn't have gone along with that shit then, but now they're out of the business. They're just doing it part-time. They don't give a fuck because they're like, well, it's already fucked anyway. They don't take it as seriously as I do. So they go, okay, just pay me. I'll do whatever. That's one group. There's another group that feel like I do, that turn their nose up at that shit and say you're fucking ridiculous, and that's why they're not involved in it. And it just depends on what type of personality you are. But I lose respect for the veterans that, i.e., take the dick flip or go along with the foolishness or whatever, because fuck, and you don't even need the money anymore, most of you. Or that amount of money. Some fucking garage show or whatever. I don't know. I don't know when somebody would have come up with enough money ever in my career to make me work with the Invisible Man in front of people. I don't know how that would have happened. whether I was active or not and whether I was making a lot of money at the time or not. But maybe that's just me. I just have a little pride in what I did. Shame it's so in such short supply. But once again, here we are. This is why I'm over here not participating in this shit, because I have some principles and also some money, and I don't have to. But goddamn, don't act like it's okay. I'll work with you if you come out and you say, look, I need the fucking money, or look, I know this is bullshit, but who cares anymore? Because I don't. I'm in another business. I just do this on the weekends. Just be honest. Don't say, oh, it's great to work with these young guys and whatever the fuck and do this. No, it's not. You know it's bullshit. You know it's fucking bullshit, Dave, and you know it's fucking bullshit, veterans. So don't try to fucking sugarcoat it. You never would have done it when you were really in the business, and you don't want to be doing it now, except you just don't give a shit because you think the whole thing's a joke anymore anyway. Well, I'm not going to contribute to the sodomizing of the corpse of professional wrestling, and I'm not going to act like, oh, well, I guess it's evolved. It's all good now. No, it's stupid. And this is why our generation is now, this generation is now fucked. For the next 10, 15, 20 years, another big national thing will never be tried again, because this will only go so far as it already is. The people who like that kind of thing, that's the kind of thing they're going to like. It's not going to catch on in mass numbers and get hot enough, go, oh gosh, blah, 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 whatever the fuck. And then what it's going to do is it's going to create the idea in everybody's heads, yeah, wrestling is even stupider than it used to be, and it's supposed to be silly. This is, do we call it performance fighting? Do we call it athletic gymnastics? Do we call it, I don't know what you call it. Dramatic athletics, except too much of it is fucking silly to have drama in the fucking title. So if you're going to go along with it, admit you're going along with it. Say, well, this is all fucking stupid and I don't give a shit anymore, but they're paying me if you're in that position. Or say, well, yeah, for the kind of people that like that kind of thing, that's the kind of thing these people like, and it's drawing a set amount of an audience or whatever. Don't act like this is some revolutionary bullshit that's taking everything into the fucking 21st century and it's going to be fucking big and great. I used to be on a show every Saturday night that was watched by more people than Raw and SmackDown and AEW put together. And that's when half the people in this country had cable. So I'm not impressed by any of you and your fucking numbers and your bullshit. Show me that you're serious about the wrestling business and about being a serious performer and getting over and doing what this is supposed to be before everybody lost the plot, and I will compliment you and I will be on your side. And go out there and do stupid, silly bullshit because it's all supposed to be a hoot anyway, and who gives a fuck? And I'm going to tell you to fuck off. So have we got that cleared up, you think?
I think.
You know, you've been telling me about this fucking new deal that I think now more than ever I might need to get involved in. Hold on, let me take a breath here and a sip of Sprite Zero.
I think that's a good idea.
No, in all honesty, switching gears a minute, we've had a number of folks who have written letters that we've read on the program about family members that have committed suicide or folks that have been depressed and they listen to the show here and I get me ranting and raving about the same things that they feel and just don't get the chance to rant and rave about. Maybe it makes them feel better, or the funny stories we tell when we tell funny stories, or just our banter. I don't know what the fuck, but they're depressed. It makes them feel better. It's helped them get through bad times when they were sick or when their families had trouble. And we read some of those from time to time, and we appreciate it. We've got a lot of listeners in the service. Mason Krieger from Arkansas flies all over the world with the official Jim Cornette burger towel. And another member whose name I won't mention, he's one of the guys we read the letter from whose brother committed suicide. And Anyway, a variety of that. And, I always say, well, I don't know what to say. You don't know what to say because we're not supposed to know what to say. You try to help your friends when you talk to them if they've got trouble or whatever, but you're not really supposed to know what to say because that's not your fucking line of work. And there's so many people that don't know how to get therapy or counseling or don't have access to it or live too far away or whatever the case. And that's why when you told me, and you've read up on these BetterHelp folks, that this came up as an opportunity to present on the show, that we thought it actually fits exactly what we've been talking about on an ongoing basis. There's a company called BetterHelp that it provides a service where you can talk to counselors no matter where you live. It's over the phone, I guess, and possibly over the internet as well, whatever the case, but over the phone.
And worldwide.
It's not just the United States. So it's not like a crisis line where, you don't call these people if you're going to do something drastic right now, but if you have trouble and you're down and you're having problems and you need somebody to talk to, they hook you up with people, and it's professional. It's not just some yahoo that, fucking signs up for the phone line. And you talk to the folks, and the way they work it is cool. Tell them a little bit about it.
It's a really cool concept. Once again, it's BetterHelp, and the actual website you can go to is BetterHelp, HELP.com/drive, and we'll tell you a little bit more about that in a second. But from what I've been reading about this and the conversation I had with the fine people at BetterHelp the other day, there are, let's say, 50 million people in this country who could benefit, in the United States, I should specify, who could benefit from counseling, and about 3 million who actually get counseling. And when you think about it, it's not an easy thing to put together. If you live in a small town in the middle of nowhere, and there's a counselor in your town, it may be someone you went to school with. Yeah. It may be someone who's a friend of your family. It may be someone you just don't want to open up to about your true feelings because you're too close to that person.
Or do you live in Everett, Kentucky? Hello, Everett. And the counselor is also the barber and the local lawnmower repair. It's one of those type of deals.
So what BetterHelp does is connect people, again, worldwide, wherever you are, through their service to counselors who can actually work with you, specifically with you, and you're getting the same sort of treatment you would get from going to a counselor's office, but you're getting it from your home. You're getting it from your telephone line. You're getting it from your computer. And it's a pretty cool concept, and they're really committed. I have to say they're really committed to doing this, and they really got the best intentions at heart here. And once again, BetterHelp.com/drive. There's a broad range of expertise in their counselor network, which may not be locally available. I mean, it goes back to the idea, forget about potentially knowing who the counselor is. You may not be able to get counseling specific to your needs if you live in a small town, if you live in the middle of nowhere. A lot of us who live in, a major metropolis like the greater New York area, we can go and find someone if we really had to, although again, you have to schedule time, you have to get out, you have to.
Well, but I was about to say, here's the thing. Also, it's if you've got a job, you can schedule, from what I understand, because this is worldwide. There's time zones all over the place. They have video or phone sessions. You don't have to sit in a waiting room, take time out off of work. You can do it from home when you're off, or during your hours or whatever.
That's right. And like you said, we've heard from so many listeners throughout the years, and we don't talk about everyone, obviously. There's a few that we've talked about on the air. Even things as simple as, I'm going through a rough time. Thank you so much for doing the show. The show means a lot to me. I consider you guys friends because I listen so much, and I'm going through a lot in my life, and I don't have anyone to talk to.
I get a bunch of those emails also, and even if people have just been ill and been in the hospital or just whatever they've been going through, saying, and we don't read them all because then we'd sound like a bunch of obnoxious, self-serving assholes. But it is great to hear that. We just we don't crow about it. But at the same point, it would be probably more beneficial rather than listening to us if you actually talk to somebody about the situation. So. And you have that.
And one of the good things about BetterHelp from looking into it was that it's not just the convenience in being able to do this on your own terms, but also the affordability. it's actually more affordable than traditional offline, I guess for lack of a better term, offline counseling. And they also have financial aid available. So it's a good deal for someone needing counseling. It's more affordable than traditional counseling. It's more convenient. You could find someone that matches specific to your needs. It's really a tremendous service. I'm really happy to have them on board here with the Drive-Thru.
Anyway, so if you want to try this out, it's BetterHelp, H-E-L-P, betterhelp.com/drive. Because if you enter that, you get 10% off of your first month's services at betterhelp.com/drive. So anyway, there's like 700,000 people already involved in this. So if it's something that you'd be interested in, and try it, and we'd like to hear, if you do this and you like it, we'd like to hear about it so that we know we're on the right track, or tweet us or write us or do whatever and let us know. So we'll keep this up if this is something everybody is into.
Hey, real quick, Jim, let me just read a couple of reviews from their website so people can have an idea of the kind of stuff they can get help for. Here's one.
Okay, you can do that while I blow my nose, and we'll both be served at the same time.
Please press mute and serve the listeners as well. But here's one for someone who was receiving counseling for 2 weeks on issues concerning stress, anxiety, and relationship issues. Laura, the counselor, is wonderful, and after only a few weeks, I can really feel a difference in my emotional stability and outlook on life. She has been kind, insightful, and given me many helpful tools and new ways of looking at my situation. I'm really so grateful I've found her, and I can't speak highly enough. And then here's another one with a different Laura. This one was for issues with stress, anxiety, relationship issues, and self-esteem. I've worked with Laura for only a short time, but I have found her suggestions and comments incredibly valuable. I have already made progress that I wouldn't have made on my own. She responds quickly and is attentive to my challenges. She has been a wonderful resource. I thoroughly enjoy our interactions. And I guess that's another thing I should point out here before we wrap this up, Jim, is that you don't just get your choice in how to receive the counseling. It could be via webcam, it could be over the phone, but you also get unlimited access to message your counselor. You could send emails and get answers back. Like I said, it's a really great service. BetterHelp.com/drive. Check it out today.
Except you do too many wrestling spots, because at one point you even said, and relationship issues, like, and a brand new car. But no, it's serious stuff. And we, like I said, let us know, guys, and we'll continue getting involved in this if it is able to help you out. Anyway, we should answer some questions on this program.
That would be nice, yes.
And before I go to you so that you can fucking parrot Charlie in Starkville, Mississippi.
Oh, come on.
I had gotten one, and it was a question that I've thought, this is a story that I've probably never told in full. I've told the story of the actual, when I got my head shaved in New Orleans. I've told a story of the actual head shaving. I don't think I've told the story, but we're all old these days, so what's fuck? I don't mind if I embarrass some people or two. But anyway, of how the whole thing came about. And I wish I had the question in front of me so I could credit the fucking guy's name, but I've had the flu, folks. So the point is, we will press on. Have I ever told the complete story of the head shaving, Brian?
I don't know. I mean, as you're saying this, I know a story about it, and I've heard you discuss it, and I know about Bobby Fulton and the Bic razor and about the clippers breaking and all of that stuff. I'm wondering what I don't know already about that.
Okay, well, what led up to it?
What led up to the stipulation?
Oh, people have seen and asked me some on Twitter. They've seen some of the Mid-South Wrestling TV clips of me when I was wearing the mask, right? It's because I had my head shaved, and then we did the deal where I had the mask on, and Duggan was the babyface. He'd pop the mask at the end of the finish of the house shows every night so people could see me. Oh, my God, and I'd run, and et cetera, et cetera. But so the question was, why did this happen? And in 1984, I was not the fully formed asshole Jim Cornette that you see in front of you today. I was the heel manager of the top heel tag team that was setting box office records in Mid-South Wrestling, and the Golden Goose heat magnet that led them in that one territory to draw in the equivalent of today's money over $30 million that year. But nevertheless, I digress. I was still a rookie dipshit that was glad to be there, right? And Bill Dundee was a booker at the time. I've known Bill since 1976. And we all went down together as part of the trade with Jarrett and Watts, me, Bobby Eaton, Dennis Condrey, Bill Dundee as Booker, Terry Taylor went, Buddy Landell. You know, he got all that talent from Memphis, and we had all known each other for a while. So it was one night, and in Lafayette, Louisiana, and in the heel locker room, and Dundee was in a bad mood, and we all got in bad. We're doing 3,000 and 4,000 miles a week in the fucking car. We're often riding with each other. You know, Dundee was the booker, so he could go either way. He could ride with the heels or the baby faces. You know, and working 8-9 times a week and all that, just that stress, right? So everybody got picky with each other from time to another. But Dundee's browbeating me about something in the locker room, and he was getting, and it wasn't about wrestling. If it had been, Cornette, you should have done this in the finish, or this is how you do this, I'd be, yes, sir, I'm sorry. But it was just our personal shit, right? He just browbeating me. And he's getting a little stiff, and the boys are kind of looking like, what the fuck's up Bill's ass? And I bowed back up at him verbally and zinged him. And of course, then I've heard he's done this to a few people we might talk about here in the future, but he goes and he doesn't slap me in the face because I kind of ducked a little bit, but he bear pawed me in the side of the head, right? Like, what the fuck? And he's like, argh, and he storms out of the fucking locker room, and he got heat with the boys because the boys are kind of like, what the fuck? He brought that up anyway and was continuing it. Right. And I had to say something or they'd have been, you know, fucking hot at me. This is all this bullying in the locker room. Yeah, the booker just cuffed Cornette on the side of the fucking head. Should I have gone to human resources? What the fuck? That was every night shit. Guys were fucking pushing, shoving, cussing, slapping, whatever. Anyway, so for a couple of days, we were a little cranky with each other, and I didn't think anything about it. But the next week, that's when I got the call. Well, guess what we booked in New Orleans? A match for you to lose your hair. And I'm like, what the fuck? So he was mad at me because I bowed up and stung him, I think, in front of the boys, just like I was mad because he, you know, was bowing up at me in front of the boys. But he had the pencil. So I wasn't in the booking meetings because I was nobody, and they did that. Dundee'd go up with Watts in Oklahoma, and they'd work shit out for a few days. So I wasn't involved, but the timing seemed suspect. So I'm like, okay. And then I get on the phone with fucking the Cowboy, and because I knew from Memphis and I knew from the wrestling business, even though I was a rookie, you know, you usually get an extra payoff for that, but that's if you're goddamn, you know, Bill Dundee in Memphis, he got the down payment on a fucking house in Hendersonville for his and his wife's fucking hair in 77, but I'm fucking glad to be there. And Watts was like, oh, it's going to be a big house. Because Watts didn't just come up with the idea, let's shave Cornette's head, but the way that it was sold, I can guarantee you, because I've done these things. New Orleans was the town that was hurt. We were having a record year, but Dog had left and New Orleans was down, especially the downtown municipal auditorium. At the time in New Orleans, we had started, in the old days in Mid-South Wrestling, if they couldn't go to the downtown auditorium, which was the Dog's house, and those stories are legendary, DiBiase having to be taken out of the fucking building in the trunk of Grizzly Smith's car so the people wouldn't kill him after he turned on Dog, and all the cops on horseback quelling the riots from the heat and et cetera, and the fucking police barricades they had in the room when guys got over the barricade and slipped through the cops and got in the ring and got a shot at the heel or whatever, the room that the fan was then put in by the cops so that the heel could go in and speak to him for a few minutes. That was the downtown building. And those people were fucking, you could get the steam up in that room. You could raise the temperature in the downtown. Tony Zane, a job guy, nice kid, but Georgia, but a job guy at the time, he got stabbed when he was in the middle of a pull apart one time. The fans hit the ring. They were stabbing the fucking job guys, right? So anyway, New Orleans was hurt. The downtown building especially, because that was Dog's house. The people were primarily the downtown New Orleans fans, the Cajuns, the black folks, the downtown people that didn't have transportation. Said they would either just walk or maybe they'd ride the bus or whatever the fuck. They wouldn't go to the UNO Lakefront Arena, which we'd started running in 84. But that was out in the suburbs, beautiful building. We would do a big house there every once in a while because that was the suburban people that wouldn't go to the downtown building because of the crowds and the parking and the danger. But they would fucking come every so often to the lakefront. And then you'd get the different crowd at downtown. And then in the early days, before they could go to the lakefront, if they couldn't get the downtown building, they'd go out to the St. Bernard Civic Center, not named after a dog, but an actual Catholic saint, apparently. And I think is only 8 or 9 miles from downtown, but they had a bus line, and it was kind of like the wrestling fan neighborhood. It was not an affluent suburb. And that building held a couple thousand people, and they could use that every once in a while. And then everybody would go to the Superdome, right? Because that was something everybody could agree on, and that was the big show. That's why they always drew the big crowds there, because all the different crowds came to the Superdome. But the downtown building was sucking hind tit. No dog. What are we going to do? So Dundee said, let's fucking make the people, let's make them come. They're going to see Cornette get his head shaved, right? Oh, God. And I'm sure that's how he sold it to Watts. But anyway, the deal was, as you will recall, it was Hercules Hernandez versus Hacksaw Jim Duggan, and it'd be Duggan's hair versus my hair. If Hercules lost, I'd get my head shaved. And the referee was Steve Dr. Death Williams. And at the time, Doc had been a babyface. He'd never been a heel. He'd come out of college at Oklahoma, and he'd been presented as the All-American football player.
They were teasing it, though, with him and Terry Taylor. They were teasing
Well, yeah, he was starting to get a little fucking, grumpy, right? But he was still a babyface. And so it looked like the deck was stacked. And also, Doc and Duggan were close friends. So this is, obviously, we're going to pay to see Cornette get his head shaved. Well, I was not as big a draw in New Orleans as a Junkyard Dog, because the only time we were there that whole year that they opened up both sides of the building, because they had the big movable curtain. And half the building would hold like 4,000, and they opened it all up. It held like 8. And in the early days, the dog, they'd open it all up, right? But anyway, they opened the whole thing up, and I think the house was $25,000, which at ticket prices, downtown building in those days was probably a little less than 4,000 people. So they could have not opened up the other half, right? So I was like, fuck, I'm getting my head shaved. We didn't even sell out. But that's how it came about. And then you can look up on YouTube the story of how, it occurred. But the thing was, since this had just been slapped together, in the old days, they used to have a barber come and make a big ceremony out of it. Well, I had said, look, since I ain't getting any extra payoff, I'd said to myself, since I ain't getting any extra payoff, I said, look, I'll go for a crew cut, right? And shave it, but I'm not doing the full Stone Cold. So I went out and I bought my own self a professional set of barber clippers, but battery operated, because how the fuck we going to plug something in at ringside, right? Nobody else ever thought of it either. Run a goddamn extension cord out to ringside. So I got the battery operated clippers, and I got the fucking guard on for the goddamn crew cut. Since none of us were trained tonsorial artists, what we didn't realize until we got out there was that my hair was so thick at the time, believe it or not, and it was so fucking hot and wet, and I'd been sweating. It was just like a wet mop. The goddamn plug-in clippers are more powerful. That's why barbers use the plug-in clippers, those battery-operated things. In those days, and especially a whole wet mop of hair, fuck, it wouldn't work. And it wouldn't work, and what the fuck? Oh, goddamn. And that's when, and then they quit, and whatever the fuck. And then here comes the goddamn scissors out of Terry Taylor's manicure toiletry bag, and he broke the scissors that are about 3 inches long, and they're holding me down, and the heels are trying to pull me out, and the babyface are holding me down, and then Bobby Fulton runs out the ring with the shaving cream and a goddamn Bic disposable, and he's taking my skin off in fucking strips.
That's
I'm like,
the best part.
Yeah, you motherfucker.
Well, no, as soon as he comes to the ring, it's on the video, which got
it's on the
TV.
video.
It was on Power Pro Wrestling, I think. When Bobby's on the apron, you turn to the back and you look, and you see he has a razor, and you go, "No, fuck you, Bobby!"
Yeah.
You can read your lips clear as day.
And so they've gouged it all up with the trimmers, and then they've fucking hacked some off with the scissors, and now he sprays my whole head with the fucking shaving cream, and he's taking the Bic disposable, and he's making track marks, and I'm starting to bleed, and what the fuck? I'm like, finally I said, guys, I'm fucking leaving. here in about 2 seconds, and he ain't going to be able to stop me. And I struggled to get my leg to Hercules Hernandez first, and he was strong enough to pull me out, and the midnight got me. And I came back and looked like a cross between a chemotherapy patient and a dog with the mange.
Was the Cowboy backstage?
No, it was he never came to New Orleans unless it was the Superdome. He came to Oklahoma City and Tulsa and TV and interviews every Wednesday. But anyway, but then back in the back, I've took the clippers, when I've got it fucking dried off and we could see what the fuck was going on, and took it the rest of the way down because what the fuck, I couldn't go out in public like that. It looked like I'd been one of those fucking the groups of skinheads that attacked me or whatever the fuck. There was nothing been backwards on my forehead. But that's the whole fucking story there, because we got grumpy with each other, me and Dundee, in the fucking locker room in Lafayette. But that's why I saw the fucking bullying in the locker room. This was weekly shit. Well, fuck you. I'll get your fucking head shaved for you or whatever the fuck. And you either did it or you didn't. You didn't fucking cry about it. And I just wore a baseball cap out in public for 6 weeks, and I looked like Opie Taylor in a fucking baseball cap.
What team was on the cap?
I don't fucking remember. The first one that I found that looked like I didn't look like I was wearing a goddamn tin pan over my fucking head.
So with that story told, 2 questions as a quick follow-up. 1, should you have learned your lesson before Johnson City in 94 with Candido? And 2, if you can go back and change anything, would you have done that stipulation still with the Rock and Roll Express against Lee and Candido in Johnson City?
No, I wouldn't do it now. I didn't. It wasn't an applicable thing because the fans were not mad. They saw them fucking shaving giant chunks off of my head, and then every night would see me with basically no fucking hair. So nobody got cheated. And actually, I forgot to mention the finish of the match was that I pulled $1,000 cash out of my pocket and handed it to Dr. Death. And he drops the elbow on fucking the back of Duggan's head when he had Hercules covered and counted the pin. So Hercules actually won. Duggan was supposed to be the one to get his head shaved.
That's right.
But since it was obviously a fuck job, all the baby faces came out, held me down, and shaved my fucking, and the people loved it. There was no issue there whatsoever. I just didn't love it. But when we tried to do the same thing 10 years later, Candido, A, didn't have as much heat as I did, B, didn't have as much hair, and C, the people thought they was going to get to see Tammy's hair shaved. So that's the fucking lesson I learned, is I fucking fucked around with it too much and shouldn't have done it. So no, I would have never done that again. But no, the last problem we had in New Orleans was the people being mad. They were tickled pink. They got to see all that shit.
And then at WrestleMania 3, same thing. Piper Adonis, loser gets their head shaved, and they couldn't get Adonis's hair off because the buzzer broke right away. So then they had to cut off little bits and throw it into the air. No one had a good buzzer.
That's the thing. It should have got one of those fucking, diddlator Mach 5s out of the fucking backs of the magazines. Those things buzz like crazy. They sound like jackhammers.
Or the Lawnmower 3.0.
Well, I didn't know we had milked the previous bit as far as we were going to go yet. I was going to head in that direction. But yes, now, 35 years later, ladies and gentlemen, the technology has been improved to the point where if you want to shave a sweaty manager's head in the middle of a downtown municipal auditorium in front of 5,000 fucking Cajuns, or as I said, a little less than 4,000, you don't need to worry about these fucking substandard pieces of equipment. You can purchase the Lawnmower 3.0. And it's not just good for heads, it's good for everything, including taints, perenniums, or is that a flower? Perineum, and especially the balls. The balls, first and foremost, we've been talking about Manscaped stuff for months on the show now, and I've been saying that the lotions and the potions and the pH balanced ball wipes and the crop mops and all that stuff, those are the candy sprinkles on the sundae. They're the icing on the cake. The real meat of the matter, so to speak, has been the lawnmower. But that was the 2.0. The 3.0 It's like the difference between the first Apollo rocket and the fucking space shuttle. I mean, the technology is amazing. Not only does this thing that they've upgraded to a 7,000 RPM motor, it's got the quiet stroke technology. You can actually turn it on and set it next to you on the bed and you can go to sleep. It's just got the nice little buzz. But also, it's got a brand new cutting edge ceramic blade. Before it was impossible to hurt yourself. This time it's not only is it impossible to cut yourself or nick yourself or hurt yourself, no matter how wrinkly your coin purse is, no matter how many cracks and crevices you got in, you can even do it blind, like I've mentioned. I can't see many parts of my body anymore, but I can just take this thing and just reach behind me or down through me and just swip, and you don't have to worry about cutting anything off. I mean, with some things, back in the 90s when you had to do personal grooming, you could give yourself an in-hotel room vasectomy sometimes with the goddamn tools and implements you had to use. But this thing, swipe, the hair flies, and the Lawnmower 3.0, the best thing about it, you can do this shit in the dark. I told you about this last week. You punch the button and turn it on. It has an LED light that shines exactly where the cutting blades are going. The blades that cut hair but not skin. So you can turn the lights off in your room, and by the light of this LED light on the lawnmower, you can have your whole body slicker than come on a gold tooth. So, and it's got a charging stand. So the 2.0 you could plug into the, what do they call it? The IFB, the NKOTB, whatever the fuck it was. This one has a nice little charging stand so you can set it down, plug it in, boom, and it lasts for 90 minutes. And you can shave a fucking gorilla in 90 minutes with one of these things. So I don't think Dutch Mantell would have a problem. So anyway, if you're listening to me right now, you want to be one of the first people to try this life-changing technology, experience it firsthand or first ball, as the case may be, trim that shit. Get 20% off and free shipping at manscaped.com with the code word DRIVE. The code word is DRIVE, and it will drive you to groom yourself more often and prevent fungus and mold and mildew. And I'll tell you what, in some cases, especially in the summertime, as we've mentioned, that black mold can come up in no time at all, and that shit will creep right up your fucking leg and go into your brain. So prevent black mold in your crotch with the Lawnmower 3.0 from manscaped.com, who are fine friends of Corny's Drive-Thru.
That's right. Promo code DRIVE.
I believe I mentioned that.
I'm reiterating.
Well, you reiterate all you want, but you'll clean it up. All right, what are we doing on these questions?
Well, that's right. We actually do, in fact, have some questions.
We got about how long we been doing this shit now? We got after we fucking cussed Dave and he's sorry he was ever born, and finished up with AEW and the goddamn money mark. How much time we got for questions?
We've got a few minutes. Are you going to watch the intergender match that's on their YouTube show?
No, I'm not. Why? What? Fuck.
We've heard from people. They're like, "Oh, I love Jim's reviews. I hate AEW." We hear from a lot of people that actually say they don't watch AEW, but they like listening to reviews. Or people who say, "I hate watch AEW and I love Jim's reviews." And then we hear from people who say, "I like AEW and I also happen to like Jim's reviews of AEW."
Well, I'm not watching their fucking YouTube show, and I'm not watching their fucking intergender bullshit because it'll just make me mad. And I've been having to take Xanax every night to sleep anyway, with my head about to blow up. Why do I want to watch a guy who's supposed to be a main event superstar waste a fucking billionaire money mark's money by fucking taking bumps for girls on YouTube when he's supposed to be main eventing pay-per-views? Why do I care to see that?
You're out of touch. He's a genius.
Yeah.
A genius. I'm sorry. Well, let's get
it is to laugh.
Let's get some questions here. A very popular topic. Many people have sent in this question in one form or another over the past several days. This one I'll read first and then I'll add a little bit to it after the fact. Was sent in to CornyDriveThru at gmail.com from Alan in San Jose, California. I just wanted to know your opinion on the WWE's drastic stock market plunge. As of January 30th, 2020, WWE fell 23% on the stock market. This could be attributed to poor live attendance, low viewership ratings, a horrible deal with Saudi Arabia, and members of the WWE board leaving. Is this a sign?
Leaving?
Well,
leaving? That's
what I'm going to add on to it. But
that's like how I left the building one time in handcuffs.
Is this a sign that the wrestling industry as a whole is dying? Or a sign that professional wrestling was never meant to be traded on the stock market?
Bingo!
Do you see WWE recovering from this? And let me add on to Alan's questions. What are your thoughts on the news that the WWE has fired their 2 co-presidents shortly before the earnings report, which, from all accounts, is not going to be a very promising report? What are your thoughts on all of this that's been happening over the past week?
Well, and now we're taking away from the experience this week, because that's one of the things I jotted down to talk about. But what the heck, will throw caution to the wind. Somebody else will do something stupid that we can talk about in the next 2 or 3 days. No, the WWE is not going out of business, and no, this doesn't mean the wrestling is crashing any more or any less than it was crashing yesterday. What it means is that the stock market got mad because Vince fired the 2 bigwigs and thinks there's something majorly wrong. Because what I think is majorly wrong is it was reported they'll get 7-figure severance packages, and they were both making about $13 million a year apiece. And that's what I think is wrong, and that's what's been wrong since I worked there, and that's what's been wrong before that. Only it's gotten to be a much bigger scale since this whole thing happened with the stock market and blah, blah, blah. When I was there 25 years ago in the fucking office in Stamford, they had hired some fucking goof. Goddamn, Osbear d'Arce, I think may have been his name. I saw him one time in one of the hotels we're going for to TV, and he was coming from the workout room, and he was an older guy, and he was wearing a T-shirt and real short gym shorts, and the T-shirt was long, so it looked like he was an old senior citizen walking around the goddamn hotel lobby with no pants on. And they paid him twice as much money as they were paying the fucking wrestlers at that time, maybe more than twice, I'm sure, at a time when wrestling was down. And Vince has always looked for these fucking executives and these big business people that he will pay ridiculous amounts of money to, that he will give benefits to, insurance and stock options and paid leave and time off and incentive programs and this and that. And at the same time, and that's why J.J. Dillon left. Read J.J.'s fine book. Because that's when they were hurting for money in the mid-'90s. He cut all the wrestling people's salary like 40%. And I think that's maybe why Lord Al Hayes kind of finished up not long after that, as I recall. But that's why J.J. determined he was going to leave as soon as he could. But they didn't cut any of the business fucking side. They've always paid these fucking executives millions of dollars or multiple amounts of money more than the wrestlers. Number one, there's a bunch of fucking college graduates in the world, hundreds of millions, and there's hundreds of millions of executives in the world that have worked for major companies. And there's very few, fewer than ever now, but few even then, great professional wrestlers. But a wrestling company paid the fucking guys that didn't take any bumps and didn't actually fucking contribute to the actual product. Yes, they did valuable jobs, but the point I'm making is when you've got a pool of millions of people to draw from to fill those positions, to do those jobs in marketing and management and all that stuff, and you have very few people to draw from to actually put on your shelves and sell as your product, I've always thought it was ridiculous that these business people, they would come just to put, to get a payoff, and they'd be in the wrestling business for a little while, and they'd move on to some other company. They'd go to Disney, or you see them all the time, and the writers come and go, so they can put it on their resume that they were in the WWE for a period of time, and then they dabbled in the wrestling sector, you fucking little weasel, and then fucking moved on to something else, instead of being people in the goddamn wrestling business. And they're paying them more than they're paying the fucking wrestlers. So the whole reason why the stock crashed is because when something like that happens with the top and all Wall Street and all these companies, they're controlled by people who think that executives are in charge of the world and are the most important people. So if in the Attitude Era, the last time they did huge business, if this same thing had happened and Vince had fired Austin and Rock on the same day, I bet you the stock would have barely moved. But because they fire executives, they thought, oh my God, there's something going on in the company. There's turmoil and their top executives are gone. That means the wrestling's going to suck now. The wrestling ain't going to change. If it sucks now, it's going to continue to suck. And if it doesn't suck to you now, it's going to continue to not suck. These people leaving is not going to have any different whatsoever in the product. But they were getting $13 million a year apiece or whatever. Fuck. But that's why the stock crashed, because there was no orderly exit. Vince got mad at him for whatever reason. They disagreed with him, and he said, you're done, which is what happens with everybody in Vince's life except his family, because you can't fire your family. Even though Shane took a nice long leave of absence for a while, because apparently, he wanted to do something else. But no, if you don't agree with Vince, or Vince decides one day that, well, this is, Vince can decide one day he loves you and the next day something, we need to make a change. And then that's the thing, and I've always been on the complete opposite end. To me, I cannot separate business and personal, and Vince, there is nothing personal to him about business. He can fire you and throw you out back basically in the street, and your family be hungry, and you could still be personal friends. Go, well, why is he mad at me? It was just business. Whereas I'm like, you fire me one time, motherfucker, you'll never get another chance, because we're done forever. And that's the way, except every once in a while, a company has fired me, but the person that actually fired me wasn't there anymore, so I came back, and it probably still didn't fucking lead to a happy ending, but I seldom, if ever, give anybody a second chance to piss me off, whereas Vince lives by it. He thinks nothing of it and can't understand why anybody would be upset at him at all if he just suddenly said, no, fuck, you're done, bye. But anyway, that's what the whole stock deal was. It just, and they didn't even work out a thing, or we announced we're going to leave at such and such time. It's like, nope, they're gone. So Wall Street goes, oh, fuck. Nothing's going to change.
I'm still amazed that Wall Street hasn't gotten a wind of some of the stories going around about Vince and his condition.
I'm still astonished that Wall Street ever got involved with Vince 20 years ago in his condition. Okay, but the first thing I said a wrestling company on Wall Street selling stock. That was really the beginning of the end. Because once you get that fucking mainstream, you can never actually be interesting again. Wrestling is all about fucking making people mad and then making them want to see somebody get even. And no, fuck. Wrestling shouldn't ever even have been national. That was the start of the downfall, because of the way that it needs to be promoted, and the way that it's best when it is promoted is regional at best. When you go national and all that stuff, and then you get publicly traded. And then you have a human resources department, and then the fucking wrestlers in the locker room are complaining because somebody bullied me, and I don't feel comfortable. Fuck.
The biggest benefit that AEW has is that they're going against this version of Vince, because he is driving he's driving off fans from his product faster than he ever has, and in the last 20 years, that's all they've done. Is driven people off. The people who stay will spend more. Yeah. There are a lot of people who don't watch actively that will fly in for a WrestleMania.
Yeah.
But there are less people watching and caring, less new people getting interested in wrestling than ever before.
And by the way, the only ones that get interested in becoming wrestlers are not now full-grown men that look like they should be in prison for fucking killing somebody with their bare hands, but a bunch of goddamn little children that want to play fun. And with Vince running people off with just a bland, homogenized showbiz version of wrestling, it's opened the door for these fucking little jackoffs to come in and do a complete shit show silliness fucking funny festival. And people think that's somehow a fucking alternative to the bland shit. Yes, but if we're talking about what this is supposed to be, what it is when it works, when people actually watched in great numbers, it's all shit. It all sucks. It's just we're grading on curves. We're allowing for, okay, well, this wouldn't have been worth a shit 20 years ago, but now in this field, yes, it was a good match or a good job or this guy, whatever. And there's some talent that could have gotten over in any era, as I've mentioned, and we've talked about them. But most of them, they get in the business just to play doing this, and the only ones that really shoot for the top and have the ability are handicapped by having to work with a bunch of nonsense along the way.
Our next question, Jim, sent in to CornyDriveThru@gmail.com. It's a two-part question, or two separate questions, from Charlie in Starkville, Mississippi.
I knew it.
And by the way, John Fell in Baltimore never got the heat that Charlie in Starkville, Mississippi seems to get.
Well, because John he's one of those guys that just asks those nice questions in a friendly way, because John's got such a pleasing personality, whereas Charlie sometimes comes off as a bit of a snit.
You think so?
And well, maybe it's just the way you read it. And the fact that everybody knows now that he's somewhat privileged around here.
Let's get to his question. Hi, asshole. What are your thoughts? No, that's not what he said. What are your thoughts on the Revival turning down a $700,000 per year plus contract offer from the WWE? And if they do jump to AEW, do you have faith they will be used correctly, considering the Young Bucks are booking the tag team division?
Well, I think if they turn down $700,000 a year apiece, I can understand that they're obviously, they've been, when you're the best in the world at what you do and you're not allowed to do it or even anything approaching it, then naturally you get frustrated. Now, I've been there. I walked out on fucking $150,000, then 20, what was that? Well, 20 years ago. So what would that be today? About $350, whatever. Yeah, I need about $350. And the fourth time I met the Loch Ness Monster, I'm sorry, it's the cold medicine talking, ladies and gentlemen, but he needed about $350. And then I noticed that Girl Scout was 9 stories tall and had a tail and was from the Mesozoic era. But anyway, so yes, I understand being frustrated, and I would suspect in my heart that they have an equivalent offer or something, whether it's equivalent or not, it's a better offer in their mind financially or for peace of mind to do something else when their contract is up. And I think it would be great. I want these guys to be exposed in front of a big audience because they're so good at what they do. And I've told a story the first time that I saw fucking Scott Dawson when he was under an assumed name 10 years ago at that independent show. And I said, what the fuck? This is like finding Barry Windham in a goddamn wrestling school. What the fuck is this? He does everything right. They grew up on it. They grew up on NWA wrestling. They studied the things. They understand what this is, and they do it exceptionally. I want them to be seen by a lot of people. Regardless of whether they're booked, I think they can have a great match with the Young Bucks if the Young Bucks will, as we used to tell the young folks in the business, shut your mouth and open your ears. And, because the Revival could have a great match with anybody. So, of course, they're going to have a great match with the Young Bucks. If it's going to be a Young Bucks style match, it's going to be garbage because it's going to mean nothing, and they're going to be pinging around from pillar to post. But I would hope and think that the Revival, especially once they sign a contract and they got to get paid, would snatch those fucking 2 little twerps and say, this is the way we're going to have this fucking match. And if you don't like it, then we ain't going to fucking put you over. Because that's the way it used to be done. And besides that, we've already seen fucking old Dash has a pretty good right from that guy that hit the ring on Bret Hart, right? He dropped him to his knees with one little short shot from 6 inches like Dick Murdoch. So I think, that they could be successful if they get signed to an AEW contract, get in the ring with the Young Bucks and say, we can do this the easy way or we can do it the hard way. And I'm not talking about whether they win or lose. I'm talking about what kind of match they have. And I know who's going to come out on the top in the fucking fist fight, so I don't think it should be a fucking problem. But if they're too nice and they're like other people that I spoke about earlier in the program and say, oh, okay, wrestling's evolved, so we're getting paid and I'll just do this, then it'll be the shits.
I don't think that's the way they would treat it.
I don't think they would either. And then maybe we'll see one of them Young Bucks with their knees buckling. Just a little wake-up shot. That's some of these things are the things that have been lost in the wrestling business. When you had a veteran or a top guy, a guy who knew what the fuck he was doing, and you had, whether he was a young babyface or a young heel, and he was going off in different directions or taking liberties or doing stupid shit, just crank that fucking guy upside the head one time to wake him up and say, listen, this is the way we're going to go, or we can go home now and talk about it in the locker room.
Geez, I can't remember where I saw it. The other day, someone tweeted at me an article that had an interview with MJF. And with MJF, I never think anything he's doing is out of kayfabe. I think everything he does that's forward-facing towards the audience is in kayfabe. But there were elements of this article that I wondered, is this MJF speaking the truth? And he said one of the big differences between, and I'm paraphrasing, between me and the rest of the guys in AEW, like the Young Bucks and Omega or whatever, is that I listen to the veterans and I watch tapes and I ask questions, and a lot of those guys think that there's nothing the veterans can teach them. And I read that comment and I go, wow, that seems a little too close to home to not be an honest comment.
I've said he's the best heel in the business. And everything, as I've said, everything that I hear personally, professionally, whatever about Kenny Olivier makes me know that I would dislike him as a person and that we would never want to hang out or talk or be in the same room, wrestling or not. Every time I spend time, have a conversation with or hear anything about or see anything that MJF does, I think, my God, I know that the chances are nil that he's my son. Because the timing just doesn't quite work out. I'd already sowed most of my wild oats by the time he was born and in this particular area of the country. But everything, some people you just get, and some people you don't. Everything that I hear about him makes me like him more.
Well, plus there's no evidence that wrestling IQ is passed down genetically. That's ever been proven.
No, that's actually, that almost the other direction, right? So, well, there you go. Captain Ed George to the rescue.
I was just talking to Dave Brzezinski about Captain Ed George, and I heard some stories, and I've seen some custom artwork that Mr. Brzezinski has done.
Hey, I got to goddamn watch Captain Ed George on television, first run in his heyday.
Heyday.
Yeah. Hey, Dad!
Captain Ed George, for those of you out there who don't know who he is, he was the son of the Sheik. I guess his real name was Ed Farhat Jr., right?
Yes.
And the last time we heard about Captain Ed George, I'll let you say whatever you want to say, was we did some kind of segment on one of the shows talking about the Sheik, and it wasn't even, I don't even know if it was focused on the Sheik, but you just casually brought up how he was known, and he was, for cutting people's foreheads, including his own, with a razor blade.
Yes, including, or in some cases, for other places than foreheads, for fans who would attack him on the way to or from the ring because he had so much heat.
And not always alerting the guy he was going to cut that he was going to do it. He was known for this.
Yes.
Well, Captain Ed George that went on like Facebook and went crazy on you, like, how dare you say this? My father would never, ever cut his forehead with a razor blade.
Oh, my God.
And I commend him for keeping kayfabe in 2019 or 2018, whenever it was, but it was just...
You notice he didn't deny he cut the fans with a razor blade. But no, as a matter of fact, my favorite story of all time, I think it was somewhere maybe up in either Ontario or Michigan in the newspaper when they reported that the guy had been arrested for attacking the Sheik at the fucking wrestling matches. They said to explain the condition that the guy who attacked the Sheik ended up in, they said he was accidentally knocked through a plate glass window when being apprehended by police.
Interesting.
Yeah. But anyway, yes. And as a matter of fact, Mike Lauren, Porky Pig, Mike Lauren he was a wrestler who worked under the name Porky Pig. He was the Sheik's driver when he would go like to the Gulas territory or somewhere out of the territory that it was a drive. He'd drive the limo. And if the Sheik got in any fucking beef, then Porky Pig would take the bump for it with the cops, say, I did it, because he was always like his security guy or whatever. And if Sheik hit somebody, cut somebody, no, it was me. And then she could just bail him out or whatever. But anyway, Captain Ed George was the son of the Sheik. He was the Michigan version of George Gulas. He never wrestled in any other promotion except his father's, and he was was pushed as a top babyface in the dying days of the Sheik's promotion, just like, only this time, Captain Ed, George didn't really help kill it. It was already on the way down. George helped kill Nick's, but then, of course, all things changing and evolving over time. I mentioned at one of the NWA anniversary shows, probably, about 10, 12 years ago, that they had in Nashville at the fairgrounds, and they had 12 or 13 matches on the card. I watched 7 of them before our ceremony, and George Gulas came and was saying hello to all the guys there, and I swear to God, George on that show would have been the 3rd best worker that I saw on the card. So things change.
Was George as bad? Because you know, I've seen video footage, but you actually saw him. Was he as bad as people make him out to be in the ring?
Well, see, here's the thing. At the time, he was just so implausible looking, and he was awkward in the ring. I mean, when he would chop, he would throw chops, and his chops would land hard, but they would look like the old timers used to have saying, his shit looked bad and hurt. It didn't look good, but at the same time, he was still really hitting. He was so tall and gangly. He was 6'6", couldn't have been 230 pounds, no muscular definition whatsoever. He had somewhat of a lisp, and he talked and sounded and looked like a guy that was being pushed because his father was the promoter. And Nick, blind to this, every fucking one of George's original publicity photos had his full name on it, George Nick Gulas, to make sure everybody knew he was related to Nick Gulas. NWA promoter, the NWA, the oldest and largest governing body of Nick, was all wrapped up in the NWA and people knowing he was the boss. That's why he was on TV promos, doing the promos for his towns, even though he was the worst thing from a TV personality. That's why he was out front in the lobby of the Nashville Hippodrome in the 50s and 60s, cussing to people to get them in. Go on, goddamn, keep moving, get in the door, because he had so many people coming in those fucking shows. They said he'd cuss them, get in there, go on, keep moving. He wanted everybody to know he was the fucking boss, and he wanted everybody to know George was his son. And George just had an awkward way of moving, and he wasn't convincing. And in those days, if you did not look like you were tough and were really trying to fight, you did not get over, and the fans would hoot at you. And you could kind of take, in the opening match, some fucking rag doll or, wet noodle, but not being pushed in main event matches and wearing belts and being partners with Tojo and Jack. He partnered George with Tojo, with Jackie Fargo, with Bobby Eaton, so Bobby could sell and give George a tag so he could make the comeback and save the day. And it got to the point, that famous match in fucking Nashville when they gave George a shot at Harley Race for the NWA title, and the people started cheering Harley. Back when that did not fucking take place, that the people would cheer for the heel in Nashville. And apocryphal it may be. I don't know if he said, Daddy said sell, but there was the like, you're supposed to sell for me. And Harley Race is like, what the fuck am I in here with? And they had to go 60 because he wasn't going to let George do a job for Harley Race in Nashville. So I wish I'd have been there. Bobby said it was ugly. He said, and then George got in a fight with the fans afterwards that had been hooting him from the front row, because the front row people in Nashville had seen everything since the Green Shadow, Pat Malone, right? They were not fucking happy with this. And George ended up getting a fight and starting a fucking mini riot with the fucking fans. And I think they said Harley had to fucking help him out of that. But it was just obvious that it was a blatant, and then before he had wrestled, Nick had made him a special referee for main event title matches, grudge matches, and before that he was the TV announcer, a TV announcer that couldn't talk plain. And even before that, the people in Nashville had known on the live Nashville studio wrestling show every Saturday night that went off the air at like 10:30 or whatever. Nick would sign off with, and I'd like to say goodnight to my son, George. Go to bed, Georgie. people in Nashville had, and then all of a sudden this guy's wrestling Harley Race for the NWA title, and he looks like a fucking, and he tried to tell people he played basketball at Vanderbilt. He went to, what was it, George Mason University or some fucking secondary college in Nashville that didn't have a basketball team. So then George, when finally Jarrett had taken everybody and gone his own way, and Nick was left with Nashville and Chattanooga and Birmingham, that circuit, George organized a basketball team called the Round Ballers. I think was it the Body Slammer? Some kind, I don't know what the fuck, but there's Tojo. Tojo's playing basketball. He's 5'4", right? Tojo, all the baby faces had a basketball team. Bobby had to play, and they would go to the spot shows, like they'd go to Rabbit Ridge, Kentucky, and play the local high school team before the matches. Then they'd set the ring up and they'd fucking have matches. Well, one night, the goddamn high school team won, and George got mad and wouldn't let him set up the ring, canceled the show, said the referee was unfair, or whatever the fuck, right? You hear all these stories. It was insanity. But 2.5 years less after Jarrett split off of Nick, and Nick, basically kept his end of the territory and featured George and the talent that he could get that, that wasn't working the Memphis end. He was out of business. A company he had run for 40 fucking years, and Jarrett gave him a mercy payoff, I think, of $100,000 to fucking just take the rest of the thing. And then they didn't even worry about Birmingham had already gone to Continental. And Chattanooga was on its ass to the point where Jarrett just said, fuck it. And Georgia took that, and he just took Nashville because that's where all the boys lived.
Let's quickly get a non-wrestling question here on the show, Jim. This was sent in on Twitter using the hashtag CornyDriveThru from Mark Gillette. During the reigning and defending greatest drive-thru ever, episode 122, Jim Cornette teased a story about throwing change at a gas station clerk after Stacy had been sold had been sold spoiled mayonnaise, ruining the potato salad. Can we get the rest of the story?
This will be a good one to close on. Do we have any song submissions?
We do. I didn't know we're closing on this one.
We're closing on this one and going to song submissions. I may have to poop myself shortly, but here's what happened. I'm sitting here one day, and Stacy's going to make some potato salad. And she makes it and said, what the fuck? Wait, come to find out the jar of mayonnaise that she had used, that she had just bought down the street at our Thornton's convenience store, was expired and was the shits. And as she'd mixed it in, and that messed up all the shit, right? I said, when'd you get that? She said, I just got it I just picked it up so I could make this potato salad. I said, well, go down there and show the guy, because she's literally just been there, right? I said, go down there and show the guy the expiration, let him smell it, whatever, and get your money back. So she comes back in a little while later. I'm doing whatever work. And she says, well, fuck that guy. I said, what do you mean? He was rude to me. He said, I didn't have the receipt because I didn't think to keep the receipt for the fucking thing. I said, wasn't it the same guy you bought it from? She said, yes. I said, he didn't remember you, right? At the time, that's when she had the flaming red fucking hair with the streaks or whatever. I said, he didn't remember you. He thought you were just trying to scam him for a $3 thing of fucking mayonnaise. Yeah, I said, now I'm hot. So give me that fucking mayonnaise. So I go down there, and this was I'm going to say 2006-ish or so, right? So there was still some heat over the Al-Qaeda, 9/11, the bombings, the whole 9 yards, just so you know what frame of mind I'm in. And this guy is definitely of Middle Eastern origin. So anyway, he's working behind the counter. There's a line. There's 2 people. So I've got the mayonnaise, and I fucking wait in line. And when I got up there, I said, excuse me. I said, my wife just came in here with this mayonnaise, set it down. I said she was trying to get her money back because it's ruined. She just bought it in here, and you wouldn't give her money back. I'd like to know why. Well, she did not have the receipt. I said, do you think this is some kind of game that we're playing besides the fact that you're the one that sold her? Well, first, when I said my wife was just in here with the spoiled mayonnaise, he looked at me like I've just come in from Mars, right? I said, do you think this is some kind of game that we're playing around town, that we're trying to get this money? I said, the mayonnaise is ruined. We just bought it in here. We just want the $3 back or whatever the fuck. And once again, I said, my wife asked you and you wouldn't give her money back. I said, and he's just looking at me, right? I said, she was just in here. He said, you calm down, sir. Now he's yelling at me. You calm down, you calm down, you calm down. And you say, you want me to calm down, motherfucker? I'm being calm right now. You want to see not calm? I hope they bomb your fucking country next, you cocksucker. And I picked up the goddamn change thing, take a penny, leave a penny, and I pegged it sideways at his fucking head, right? I said, no, because he's already, from the time he said, you calm down, he's grabbed his phone like he's going to call the police to get me to run off, right? Like this, suddenly I said, she's just in here and she was complaining about the mayonnaise and you remember none of this, in about that tone. And you calm down, he grabs his phone. That's why I'll show you what's not calm, you motherfucker. And I fucking cussed him, I pegged that thing at him. I said, it's being last time I spend a fucking dollar in here. I'm calling the police. I said, good, call them about this. And as I go out the door, it's the glass door, right? And I fucking turn around and I heave that thing with all my might. Because I have smashed 3 glass doors to put an exclamation point on things in my time. And the last time it was in 1996 in Tampa, at a goddamn off-brand hotel that had sold me a goddamn room that hadn't been made up and then didn't want to give me a refund. But I digress. Anyway, I slam this fucking door as hard as I can. It's one of those goddamn pneumatic jobs. It's got the air fucking thing on it. I slammed it. It went 100 miles an hour for about a foot and then slowed down and went. So I was like, motherfucker. So I'm getting in the fucking truck, and that's when I had as a matter of fact, it was 2006 because I just bought the Expedition. And I fucking back up, and I'm pulling out of the parking lot, and I see this fucking dickhead coming out with a fucking pad of paper and trying to write down my license number, right? And I'm thinking, like, I could just back up and just back the fuck over you, and I wouldn't care a thing about it, you cocksucker. But on the theory that he's possibly going to write the number down and it'll be on his dead body, I just pulled out. So I come back home. I immediately call my good friend Donnie P., car dealer to the stars over at Paul Miller Ford in Lexington, because I still had a dealer plate, right? I just bought the truck. I said, Donnie, I said, can the police trace one of these dealer plates to exactly whose car it is? They said, no, they can just trace it back to Paul Miller Ford. I said, well, good. In that case, I don't have to go hang out in the Anne Frank room for a couple hours. And then I just didn't go back into that. And wouldn't you know who won the pony? Apparently, I was not the only person dissatisfied with the service and merchandise at that store, because I don't think it was several months after that. See, that guy was the fucking manager. He was always in there. He saw us all the time. He knew we spent money in there all the time. And he couldn't even be bothered to fucking refund us $3 for the mayonnaise from people he'd seen coming in there buying shit constantly. So fuck him and whatever country he came from, that I hope they do bomb the next time they start bombing shit. But he couldn't fucking track me down. Anyway, 3 months later, he's gone. The store closed down. It got a complete facelift, an entire brand new fucking staff, the whole 9 yards. So I won out in the end. But I learned a valuable lesson. You cannot slam with any type of authority those goddamn pneumatic hinged fucking convenience store doors.
Lesson learned.
Which is a very valuable thing to know.
That's right. Well, before we get to some songs here, Jim, just want to quickly say, Professor Ouch, I'm sorry we once again did not get to your question.
Oh, come on, Ouch. We love you. You know that.
Next week, because I'm sick. Give me some time. I'll have more oxygen next week, and we'll plug the Bizarre Bazaar. That's right. Well, on that note, we end this drive-through. The experience will be coming at you, I don't know, in like a day or so. I don't know what day this is. I'm all off.
2 days. 2 days.
2 days. My schedule's all off right now.
Yeah. Well, you've got illness in the family also.
That's right. Now
Mental.
I have to explain what that means. A couple of the kids are sick. Nothing else. Nothing more serious. Well, on that note, the drive-through has come to a close in more ways than one. I want to remind you, you can follow Jim on Twitter at @TheJimCornette. You can follow me on Twitter at GreatBrianLast. You can hear me on the 605 Superpodcast at 605pod.com or available wherever it is that you find your favorite podcasts. Listen to The Experience when it comes at you this Friday or whenever you want. You can listen to the Drive-Thru and The Experience wherever you find your favorite podcast or on the official Jim Cornette YouTube channel, tinyurl.com/official Corny YouTube. And thank you to all the new subscribers to the channel. We really do appreciate not just your subscribing, but also the various comments and everything that's been going on in that channel. The action has been fast and furious on the official Jim Cornette YouTube channel. Don't forget Cornette's Collectibles at jimcornette.com. No need to sue. Your orders are being filled once he's better, once he's not going to give you an illness when you open the package and get that burger towel.
Couple days, everything's headed out.
jimcornette.com. Don't forget the drive-thru is brought to you by the Law Office of Stephen P. New, 888-692-8084, or visit newlawoffice.com. But until Friday on The Experience, for Jim Cornette, I'm the great Brian Last. Tally-ho!
Is this shit supposed to be chunky and purple?